Welcome back to the Stuff or Whatever podcast. Is your host Brian or Bikwanchi. In this week's episode, we were talking about anime, and I want to talk about anime I grew up watching, some animes I watch now, some I recommend, and I'm always open to recommendations as well. So you can always post in the comments. And yeah, I thought this would be kind of a fun idea, and I wanted to start off kind of like the more, I guess you can say, heated debate when it comes to anime watchers or viewers is watching anime subtitled or dubbed in English. And I would say I lean more heavily on the dub side. I don't know. I am willing to watch things in another language like Japanese and read subtitles, but for the most part, if it's in English or if it's, I don't mind waiting for the English dub to come out. I kind of more lean towards that. I think some of the biggest complaints with the English dubs is that a lot of times the voice acting is really bad. But on the same time argument, I feel like over time it's been getting a lot better, like who they cast, especially with more of the recent popular animes. And I guess I can also say I'm guilty of watching the more, I guess you can say, mainstream animes as well. So probably some ones I'll list off would be ones that are heard of and things like that. And going back to like Japanese, the original cast, I haven't dipped into too much. To one I really watched, it was like a special for Final Fantasy VII. I think it was before Crisis, or a bit when it was like the events of, and Sephiroth finds out the truth of Jenova when he goes to, is it Nibelheim, if I'm saying that right? Has like Tifa and Cloud and Zack, I think. But yeah, for the most part, if it's available in English, I'll watch it in English. And also, I know I guess I'm one of those people who aren't too picky, or it has to be really really bad to turn me off. But I have to say, like, I have seen like clips, and I have to say, funny, like one of the big ones I watch, and one of the biggest one out there is Dragon Ball. I feel like for like adult Goku, the Japanese one just seems so weird. Like hearing clips of it when you grew up watching English dub and English Goku. I know the Japanese one is played by a woman for Goku, so that's kind of weird. I'm not sure like how they cast, like if they do a lot of females who do males and all that. But something I haven't really dug into too much. And also, speaking of English dubs, I haven't watched too much of it. I think I tried to like. It's kind of hard to find, but I've watched a little bit of YouTube as ghost stories. And I hear like the thing about that is when it came to the English dubbing and translation, they didn't really care. So a lot of the jokes were, I'm not sure if we say improv, but they just didn't care. So if you're looking for like funny English dubs, there's some out there. But I know Ghost Story is a pretty good one and notorious for having a weird English dub in terms of the context and content and all that. But I guess to start watching anime as a kid, I feel like it kind of depended on the Toonami block back in the late 90s and also Kids WB, but I feel like Kids WB was more focused on like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and things like that. Although I didn't watch Yu-Gi-Oh! I did watch Pokemon because I grew up with games as well. And also Digimon was a good one, but I watched maybe the first season. I haven't really followed it. I'm not sure how long that one has been running. I'm not sure if that's good to revisit. Because I know it still has a relevant presence and all that. But I feel like Pokemon... God, I can't remember the last time I watched the actual Pokemon anime. Because I haven't watched Journeys or Black and White. I'm trying to think. I think it was before Gen 3 was introduced, if I can recall correctly. Because I don't remember seeing Gen 3 Pokemon in the anime, so I think that's when I kind of tuned off on Pokemon. I feel like that one, is more for kids. Of course, the context is for kids. Other ones, of course, Dragon Ball. I watch all of it: the Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, even Dragon Ball GT, which I know people think that's the worst one. Which, and I feel like I want to revisit that one just to kind of be more critical of it. Also, I know like they re-release stuff like Dragon Ball Z Kai, I feel is a little bit more better in terms of editing. I haven't examined it too much besides just watching it, but I feel like they added down a lot of the filler or like Notorious in Dragon Ball Z, like the fight with Frieza, how it was like so many episodes. I feel like they kind of edited it down for Dragon Ball Kai. So I'm sure most seen Dragon Ball Z, but if it's a series you want to revisit, I hear the Kai one is the one to watch. I feel like that when Toonami, like I know when it first came out, I know now Toonami is more like for adults, like it's part of the Adult Swim block. But I'm not sure what else they really had or what I tuned into. I know eventually it became on Adult Swim. I think they had anime on Adult Swim before they officially brought back Toonami. But I remember there was that era where they had Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho. Oh, Cowboy Bebop. That's another one of my favorites. Speaking of those three, I really like Yu Yu Hakusho. I remember watching it. I watched most of it. But then later I eventually revisited and finished up the series. But I know that's kind of an old school one that's really good. Inuyasha, I'm not sure how far I got into that, but I kind of tuned out. And I'm not sure if they get fully aired like a complete series. You know, sometimes there's some obstacles like when they're released in English, or if they rely on the manga, that the manga's not finished yet. Which that's another thing. I don't read too much manga. I kind of stopped with that, but I want to kind of look into that a little bit more. I feel like there's more platforms in terms of like reading manga online or services versus getting manga books and things like that. Because I also kind of like comic books in a sense, but I'm not really fond of like collecting every comic book out there. So it's not something I really follow myself. And I also think of some anime series. I know kind of with anime, there's like two different, I don't want to say like schools of anime or different patterns I kind of notice. Either like some animes may have like a shorter run, like you can easily get in one box set, and then animes that last forever and ever and ever. Like I haven't watched too much of it, but there's One Piece is notorious for having a long series. In Naruto, which I'm also kind of getting back into watching on Netflix, but some that are pretty good that don't require you to watch like hours and hours and hours and hours and hundreds of episodes. I remember I had the box set for Outlaw Star. That's a really good one. Trigun, I really like that one. I did watch Original Hellsing. I actually have the box set sitting on my shelf, but I want to revisit that one because I know, what was it? Is it Hellsing Ultimate, I believe, is a newer one. I'm not sure with the new series, because I know some series have that where they have like a maybe updated, or like another good example is Fullmetal Alchemist, is that the original one kind of strayed away from the manga, but the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is more true to it, which I watched that one. I want to watch the original Fullmetal Alchemist, because remember that was the one aired on Adult Swim. And I know that one has a lot of differences. Like I know some of the main differences, like the character Sloth is actually a woman. And I know watching it, it kind of starts off before Edward. Yeah, Edward is the Edward and Alphonse. But I remember in the plain Fullmetal Alchemist, Edward, it starts off with him not being a state alchemist yet, and then part of the like story arc is him getting his license, and there was a little fight or whatever with Mustang. So kind of want to watch that one just because I feel like that one has a lot of differences with the story beats and arcs compared to Brotherhood. And then another one I want to revisit is the Dot Hack series. And I'm not sure if it's the first one that came out, but it's Dot Hack Sign. And I've been kind of watching, about to finish up like Dot Hack. What is it? I forget. There's two. I actually watched a lot of my anime on Funimation. I feel like that's a pretty good service, not to like be sponsored or whatever. But I used that. I did have Crunchyroll for a little bit, but I didn't quite stick with it. But I'm watching Dot Hack Roots, which I'm finishing up. And this one I never even heard of, besides seeing it in the menus, is Dot Hack Quantum. And I did watch Legend of the Twilight, which kind of a fun one too. That was a little bit more, I want to say, for lack of a better word, more chibi and cute, but that's a good one. I remember I mentioned this, I believe, in like my game podcast, is the Dot Hack games. I remember playing the old ones for the PlayStation 2, like they'd have a DVD, a Dot Hack episode, and it really escapes me like which were on those DVDs, but I remember the last one for the fourth game was based on the characters from Dot Hack Sign, but it was like a really cheap or really wacky animation, and I did remember that was in Japanese, so I did have to watch that with subtitles. But I'm not sure where you can find those online, but the Dot Hack animes that came with the original PlayStation 2 games would be interesting to revisit. And then kind of move into some animes I'm watching now is Dr. Stone is one I really like, My Hero Academia. I gotta get back to Attack on Titan. I really like the first season. I feel like it changes tone a lot, but of course I think that's how it kind of develops, in the sense that I feel like season 1 is kind of being a little bit more hopeless and then fighting back, but I think I barely watched a few episodes of season 2. I'm not sure. I think they finished it, but one I really like is Space Dandy. That's a really good one to watch. I gotta watch more Bleach. I think they're gonna bring that back. I watch all the ones I believe on Netflix, but I think there's a lot more to it. This Food Wars, I gotta watch a little bit more of that. Ooh, Fully Cooley, that's a fun one. I haven't watched the newer seasons as much. I think I've watched a good chunk of Fully Cooley Progressive, but there's also alternative. I'm not sure what the reaction is with that. I know like the original Fully Cooley was really revered, and that's a really good one. Oh, and another one, Sword Art Online, and I think that has a little mixed reaction too, because I feel like the first season was really, really good. The concept was really good, and it almost felt like it was kind of stretched. Especially season 2. I think season 2 is notorious when they go to like the elf magic kind of game, which I can't even remember offhand. And then I didn't realize that they had like another one. I'm not sure what the season is, but it's like the Ballet of Bullets with the gun kind of game, which I only realized that came out was because of the Sword Art Online mobile game. And I haven't watched too much of Alicization. Actually, I think that's more the recent ones. I'm not sure how good that one is, and I'm not sure if it's worth really committing back to Sword Art Online, which is kind of a shame because the first season was really, really good. And of course, I know this is also another hot anime at the moment is Demon Slayer. I can't really pronounce the subtitles for the life of me, but Demon Slayer is really good. Mugen Train, I think that's the what they just came out with. I'm not sure if that's going to be airing soon, like on streaming, but I really like to watch that. And I think that one, the animation is really good. And I have to say that it has one of my favorite characters, Inosuke. Kind of a little spoiler, not really, but I kind of was disappointed that his boar head was actually a mask, but I don't think he really hide it with how he talks in terms of like the promotions and things like that. You see like next time, because that was the one that was airing on Adult Swim, but I think that's one of my favorites, and I believe a new season's coming out, but I'm not sure how they're going to release it with the train arc. And then the Promised Neverland, I have to get back to that one. I watched the first season, really liked it, but I heard a lot of complaints about the second season. And I think it's one of those things that when it comes to anime, a lot of people, are very committed or revere the manga a lot. So if the manga strays away from the anime, there's a lot of complaints about it. Other series, Hunter x Hunter. I'm not sure if that's going to continue. I didn't even realize that it was actually an older anime as well, but they had issues because the manga had like a hiatus or a pause. So the very first one, I haven't even seen it, but the more recent design that people are more familiar with, I have watched that one. And going to another popular one is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I feel like I was a little late to that party. I feel like when the Golden Wind series was debuting in English, I kind of like binge all of it. Trying to recall, I can try to look it up real quick, but all the story arcs. It's funny, I'm not sure when. Let's look up to right now when it first came out. Okay, not as old as I thought. I feel like I think the manga's a lot older. But the Japanese, wow, there's kind of a gap because the first arc, Phantom Blood, came out in Japanese in 2012, but in English in 2016. And then Battle Tendency looks like it came out right after that. And then Stardust Crusaders came out in 2017 as well. Wow. It actually came out pretty back to back. So I guess it's not too much of a break because then there's Diamond is Unbreakable, Golden Wind, and then Stone Ocean. I know it's been confirmed, but it hasn't been even released in English yet in terms of the anime. I guess it's been pretty consistent, but I feel like Phantom Blood is like one of those. I thought it was much older because it kind of feels like one of those animes that, even though it's mature, it doesn't really rely on like jokes or extreme violence, and you can kind of, if you watch the series, you can see that it picks up over time. But I have to say, the later seasons I really like, especially when it introduced the stands. I do have to say, Jotaro is my favorite protagonist of the Joestars, and I can't tell which ones I really like. It all kind of is pretty good. Maybe Diamond is Unbreakable. I like that one because I like the mechanics with the stands and the Golden Wind. I feel like one of the things like they almost back into a corner and then they do this or this technique or do this with a stand. So it's kind of like one of those interesting shows. And then what's the spin-off they came out with? I know it's based off the character from 3, Thus Spoke Kashibi Rohan. I know they released that on Netflix recently, and that's another good one. Wrapping things up in terms of animes I'm watching, I'm kind of pulling up my Funimation account. Like I said, that's the one I kind of more rely on in terms of streaming, although there's always Netflix and Hulu that has a lot of good animes as well. And I'm not watching a really good anime movie is Akira, and I feel like that's kind of like one of the standout ones that people always reference, so but that's a really good one. I'm looking, and if anyone has suggestions, especially if it's available on Funimation, I can always add it to my queue. But there's one, Tokyo Ghoul, which I'm kind of like one of those things, like when you go through your streaming whatever services and just add stuff and see if I want to watch it. I did queue Devil May Cry just to see how that is. There's Monster Hunter Stories Ride On, which I wonder if that's any good. Ooh, another one I have to finish watching is Assassination Classroom. And another one I want to watch is, I have it queued, is Persona 5 the animation. Because I feel like I gotta play the games that I haven't played Persona 5 because I don't have the PlayStation 4 or whatever. I don't think they put that on Steam yet, but I really like the style of that game, so I want to watch the anime of that. And another good one, I think I heard they're bringing it back, but The Devil is a Part-Timer, I believe that's what it's called. I know that was kind of a short-lived one, but I think they're bringing that back. I haven't finished watching that series yet. And also another one I just remembered is the Danganronpa anime, and that's a little bit confused. I'm thinking almost making another podcast based on Danganronpa. I still got to finish up the games, but the first game has the anime like pretty much follows it beat by beat. Is Danganronpa the animation, but I did some really weird stuff with the anime, the story in terms of like how it's released. There's Danganronpa 3 End of Hope High School. Let me try to see if I remember the subtitle. Yeah, Danganronpa 3 The End of Hope Peaks High School. And the weird thing about that is that the first arc for that is kind of the beginning of the story, and then it goes in, like, to the games, and then the second arc, the future arc follows after the first two games, and one of my complaints about that is that they didn't make an anime based off the second game, at least not that I'm aware of. I know it's really confusing that they have Danganronpa 3, but there's no Danganronpa 2 anime. But the Danganronpa 3, their first story arc focuses on the characters from the second game. It sounds even confusing even trying to talk about that, but I feel like that one has some complaints with it as well in some story. But I would say the first Danganronpa anime is really good. I really like that whoever does the English voice for Monokuma. And I just kind of remember some other animes. Black Clover is the one I need to get back into and watch. Let me look, because I just actually got that one game, Jump Forces, and it has like a good collection of fighters based on like shonen anime and all that. So let me try to pull up that real quick and kind of see what other ones I forgot about. Okay, look into that. I think I already mentioned a lot of the series in that has characters featured in Jump Force, the game. But some animes I haven't really watched. I think an older one is City Hunter and Fist of the North Star. That's one I haven't watched. That also reminds me of Berserk. I know they have a little bit more anime. I did watch a really older anime of that. And maybe sort of jump into that. I know the manga creator recently passed away. Again, I don't follow manga too much, but maybe get back into what I've been kind of missing with Berserk, because I did remember liking the original series. And of course, there's Rurouni Kenshin, which I really liked. I think I kind of dropped out of it a little bit, but I did watch the main arc with him versus, is it Sishio? I mean one. And also Death Note, that's a really good one too. I did really like Death Note. I know some people near the end kind of had some complaints about the new characters that they introduced, but Death Note is a really, really good one. And speaking of that, Death Note, I know Netflix came out with a live-action Death Note, which I didn't care for too much. I know a lot of people didn't really care for that one. I think my biggest complaint is it didn't feel like it followed the characters in sense, like, I felt like Light wouldn't act like that, or L wouldn't act like that, so I kind of felt like they took their own liberations, or lack of a better word, but that's one I feel like it hasn't done too well. I know they did live action of Attack on Titan, and I believe Fullmetal Alchemist. I'm not sure if they've been translated to English, but it's true out there. I'm not sure if those were any good or had complaints. I guess one thing to talk about, kind of finishing this up, this might be a little shorter podcast, but I feel like there was a kind of a moment of time where a lot of animes would have video games based off them, and I remember playing them and getting some enjoyment from them. I'm not sure how they hold up as well, but for example, I remember this is a Fullmetal Alchemist game. I think that's one I maybe rented, because I don't remember really getting that far beating it. And it's like one of those things like, oh, that's the anime or that's a cartoon I'm watching, now it's a game and I can play as these characters. So sometimes your standards or all that kind of dumbs down in a sense that even if it has a lot of flaws in the game, you will look past it or not care too much. As long as you're playing anime. And I remember having the Inuyasha fighting game. That was okay, and then there was a Yuyu Hakusho one was maybe a little bit better. But it's like one of those things like, it's anime, and I want to play the games because I want to play as my favorite characters. But I feel like recently, I know there's a huge gap and I haven't really followed too many anime games. I'm pretty sure there was a Cowboy Bebop one that was okay, like maybe not as good received, but I feel like Jump Forces is a pretty fun one, especially if it's like a mix of a bunch of different characters from a bunch of different series, so that's kind of a fun one. I think that's a little bit more the more recent ones. It kind of almost makes me want to revisit One Piece, because I feel like, in the era, especially when they're showing animes earlier in the day. I feel like you watch a little bit of the earlier seasons of One Piece, but I feel like that show is notorious for being very, very long. And kind of looking more, I'm trying to kind of refresh myself on some animes. Is another one I need to get back into is One Punch Man. I'm really liking the first season. I think I've seen a good part of the second one, and also Mob Psycho. I believe it's kind of like the same creator or whatever, but I want to get back into that one. Also, speaking of that, just kind of thought of older animes is, I think it's kind of more as a kid, kind of my first exposure to anime is, I think one of my first one is watching My Neighbor Totoro, like the old Studio Ghibli. My Neighbor Totoro was one that we had that I really liked. I like other Ghibli stuff. I should try to track down more because I know one I liked as well was Howl's Moving Castle. I don't think I've seen Kiki's Delivery Service. I did watch Spirited Away and really like that one, but something I should look into more. Okay, and I think that's going to really do it for this podcast. I feel like it's running a little short, but I feel like a lot of it I'm forgetting a bunch. And in the comment section, if you have any good animes that are worth watching, always utilize the comment section to do so. And I know there's a lot I'm missing. A lot of times I just kind of record these podcasts just on the fly and don't really have like a full big like idea of everything I'm going to talk about, which I think is kind of fun that way. But kind of use this last bit, I'm kind of like looking at shows that show. I think one might be worth watching. I just barely heard of it, but there's that one called That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. I'm sure it's good. It pops up for me. I'm not sure if it's any good, but this Pretty Boy Detective Club. I heard of this one before, and maybe it's worth visiting. Fruits Basket. I just remember another one. It's called Love Hina. I remember my friend in high school had it and borrowed a bunch of it, but I feel like that's kind of a fun one. It's kind of more of a romancy kind of anime. So I know most animes, at least a lot of ones I watch, are kind of like more like action packed and fighting, whether it be martial arts or ninjas or sword fighting and things like that. But yeah, I forget that there's a lot of animes that don't just focus on action and fighting. That this kind of maybe slice of life or sitcom-y. I'm not sure if sitcom is a right way to mention it. I'm thinking other ones. We have to track back. There's Samurai Champloo is a good one, which I remember liking it, but I don't think I finished it. So that might be one worth revisiting. So another one I thought about going back to like English dubbing is the Shinchan one, and I think the anime was kind of more of a kids cartoon. But I know they brought it on Adult Swim, and they kind of did their own like whatever dialogue for it, and kind of had its own humor. Because I feel like some of the from what I remember hearing, is some of the jokes don't translate well. So sometimes I think they even make their own narrative based on the English dub, but that's kind of a fun one I remember watching. But I have to say that will do it for this week. So thanks for listening. Subscribe, comment on all that, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.